and welcome to the January 23rd, 2013 Radnor Township Shade Tree Commission on this very frigid night. We have five items on the agenda, and then several hazardous tree reports. And I'm going to halt right now because I just saw one other member walk in the door, so hang on. Okay, the first item on the agenda is what we call an organizational meeting amongst the board itself here, or the commission itself. And the purpose of that meeting is to identify the chair and the vice chair of the commission. And we've had a brief discussion about that role. And I'm going to open it up to the commissioners here for discussion.
I'd like to make some nominations.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Howard Holden to resume as chair and Jim Ward to resume as vice chairman.
I'll second that nomination. Given their experience and their service to this board, it's been outstanding, so I will second it, yes.
Jim, are you in accord?
I accept.
Okay. Do you want to switch places?
No, Howard, you can drive the train.
Okay. Alrighty. Then the organization of this commission will be, I will remain as chair. This will be my last term. This is the end of this 5-year term. So I look forward with serving with you for this next coming year. So learn your lessons well. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 615 Newtown Road.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Stewart, landscape architect for the project, here on behalf of 615 Newtown Road Associates. To my right is Mr. Alex Wassiloff, the applicant. We also have John Hoshback, arborist, who helped us with our tree survey and identification of all the trees on the site, and Joe Rosati, landscape architect. I think this is our third time before you, and since the last time we've been here, I think I'll just give you an update of what has happened. We were successful in obtaining a waiver from the Board of Supervisors to reduce the road right-of-way. This allows us to pull the houses closer to the proposed road that we have down here in the center of the site. And we were also successful in obtaining a front yard variance from the Zoning Hearing Board that would allow the houses to be constructed even closer to the roadway. Because this site has I'll call it a necklace of mature trees around the perimeter, our idea was to minimize the site disturbance, and in order to do that, we sought the waiver and the variance, and we were successful in obtaining both. Since the last time we were before you, we also took a harder look at our tree survey that we had for the property, and we found there were some inaccuracies in it. So we retained the services of John Hoshback to go out and identify all the trees and their rating and caliber, size, and species. And we had our surveyor, D.L. Howe, go out and actually locate every single tree on the site, so we knew exactly where the trees were, because we wanted to make a sincere effort to save some of these mature trees. The total number of replacement trees when we last met, we were around 260. Since that time, we were able to reduce our site disturbance, and we're now looking around 157 replacement trees. So it's about 100 trees difference. Of the heritage trees on site, There's 9 of them that were rated in good condition. We were able to save 6 of them. We also, as part of our part of agreement with the board and the zoning hearing board for the relief on the waiver and the front yard setback, we're putting a conservation easement along Newtown Road. It's about 35 feet in depth, and nothing will be able to be removed from there. There'll be a trail that will go along through that area. We've also agreed to put a conservation easement along the stream, the Van Leers Run, that runs along the back of the site. And there's a number of trees in there that'll be preserved as well. And I believe the landscape plan that we've submitted before you, we have shown the 157 replacement trees. We've worked with Mr. Hochbach on selecting native species. We have some evergreens mixed in there with some shade trees. The evergreens, we're trying to beef up the buffer along Sproul Road. There's a lot of firs that have lost their lower branches, and we think it makes sense to try to come back in and replant underneath those trees. And also out along Newtown Road, there's not much understory out there, so we're trying to use some understory trees, some shade trees, and some evergreens to enhance that buffer for the public along Newtown Road. We also changed our stormwater design. We were finding that the traditional system we had a pretty large footprint to it, so we had directed our engineer to go to look at a different system. We're using a storm tank system, and that reduced our stormwater footprint by maybe a third, and that helped us save a lot of trees too. So I think that's just a brief summary of what's happened since last time we were here, and could certainly answer any questions you might have.
I have a question about the listing of the trees, and there was a lot of work done on this. It was very interesting reading it. All the trees were listed, 411 trees that are to be impacted. I had a question about, as far as the comments and maintenance of the trees. It was kind of a minimal comments on pages 12 through 18, and then from page 19 on, got more specific about cleaning, pruning, cutting vines, future transplant. There's just a lot more detail on the pages after that. I'm wondering, is two different people do that, or is there some reason in terms of where those trees are located that the first 150 didn't get those kind of detailed comments about the maintenance?
Because they're located in the natural area along the front.
Which ones?
Pages 12 through
18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
They're in natural areas, so we're not doing any maintenance. We're going to keep that area.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Another question on those comments. I noticed for some of the trees, it mentioned that there was minor decay or slight decay, even for some big ones. Like, for instance, 111 is a tulip poplar, 26 inches. That's not gigantic, but there are some that are pretty nice size. And it said slight decay, and there's a few of those that were like that were recommended for removal. And I'm just not clear on why the slight decay would cause the, why we would differentiate that from major decay if it's not going to involve saving the trees.
It only depended on the location. If there was a target, if something would be affected, if the tree or part of the tree would fail. The location-
John, I'm sorry, could you come up to the microphone? Thanks.
Due to the location, the design, and if you look at the date in the front, we did this prior to the final design being completed. So management recommendations, as is said in the end of the report, will be conducted after the final phases are done.
Specifically, what is the slight decay? How does that? How would you define that in terms of causing removal? What kind of?
With a strength loss greater than 30%?
Is that what that?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
But none of these trees are in the area where you're actually building, right? They're all in areas where they could be.
They're in both
They're in
building
both.
areas and natural areas.
Well, why aren't those looked at like in the building area, to be removed?
Correct. This was done prior to the design phase,
Okay.
so it's going to be done after
Okay.
that. Yep, the management
Okay.
recommendations.
So as we're looking at these, we wouldn't know really which trees would have to be wiped out by the new buildings.
Yes, you would, right, Matt?
Oh, because of the map, from
Yeah,
the map?
correct.
Yeah, I was having trouble reading the map. It's a little small, so, okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I may have one question for the applicant. You had mentioned the storm tanks, and on storm tank 3, you show on the demolition plan, the trucks, the final plan, which trees are going to be removed. It looks like tree number 301 and possibly 299, but definitely 301 might be in the overdig for that. There are 3 trees directly south of storm tank 3.
I'm sorry, we've got, these smaller plans.
It's tough to read.
And I don't know, is that
So it's
still?
lot 5.
It's 299, 301, and
I couldn't find a number for the other one.
317, I believe.
Okay.
What, excuse me, what page might that be on in the larger set?
15 of 16.
Yeah, I can point to it here for you. It's on lot 5. To the south of the house, the proposed footprint of the house, there's a storm tank number 3. And I believe Mr. Norsini is talking about 1, 2, 3 trees, the first 3 trees immediately to the south of that storm tank 3 system.
And I guess 301 is maybe, according to the stamp of the tree, is 6 feet away to the drip line.
Right.
I was concerned with the overdig on all 3 of those trees. And if they will be affected, that's going to affect your tree count.
Those trees in question there, they're 8 to 9 inch evergreen trees, so they're not a typical shade tree that have a much larger drip area. So I think we're pretty comfortable that we'll be okay saving those guys. They're not very large trees, as I guess is what I'm trying to get at. With not much of their root spread on an 8-inch caliper spruce isn't really that great. And that symbol, you're right, Steve, the spread of it isn't meant to be the actual
Right.
drip
I know it's
line.
just a symbol, so I have no idea how
Right.
big the actual tree
But
is.
we're approximately 20 to 25 feet away from the trunk with the storm tank.
Yeah, I'm not, if the dot is actually the trunk, I'm not seeing that you're 20 feet away. Like for tree 301, you're more like 9 feet. And I'm not sure the depth of the storm tank, and I don't know what the overdig would be. The only reason I'm bringing it up, if the tree's going to be impacted, now would be the time to note anything on the plan and make a change, or if the trees in general.
I think 317 is the closest. And we're about 9-10 feet away from there, yeah.
So I'm assuming that the solid dash line is the actual outline of Storm Tank 3?
That's correct.
And
The dash line around that is the easement, I believe, that's associated with it.
all right, which we could probably use as an overdig, perhaps. That's might be a little heavy at 5 feet, but that would, without knowing exactly where the tree is, I don't know how impacted they would be.
It's my understanding from talking with the engineer that there's not much overdig because it's the kind of like an egg crate system that they use, so they can get they can get a pretty good cut put their fabric in, put the crates in and the stone.
The overdig is usually dependent on the depth.
True.
So, right, for OSHA regulations. So if it's a 4-foot cut, they can drop their crate in, fabric stone crate, backfill and go away.
Right.
If it's deeper, but I can't tell from these plans, there may be a step or a sloped dig, and that's what worries me about those trees.
Right.
We're not quite sure which plan we're looking at, and I hate to say it that way, but the bold trees are the ones that are going back in, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the simple symbol are existing.
Yeah, sheet 15 was the landscape plan.
Right.
And the little, it's a kind of a faint symbol was the existing trees that are going to stay. On the next sheet, this survey, we showed access through the trees that are going to come out, and then we have the trees that are going to remain are shown as a darker color there.
Okay.
It's tough at 50 scale to.
No, I apologize. We got these plans late yesterday, and I've not had the time myself to review it in detail.
And we can certainly, if it would please the board, we could add the additional replacement trees for those 3 trees in question. We'd like to have a chance to try to save them, but if we can't, we'd certainly be willing to put them in our compensatory count today.
If you look at the outfall for stormwater tank 3,
Yes.
that points right at three additional trees.
Right.
Which is a concern. I'm assuming you're not willing.
We don't have any of these trees, none of them are identified or, I got no sizes.
They're on sheet 16 of 16. They're all identified. On the left-hand side of that sheet, there's a chart, and that's taken right out of the arborist report. I know you probably can't read it at that 11 by 17. I have an extra full-size copy if you'd like, Mr. Ward.
I'd just like to go over one question again. You've itemized 400 some trees here. Now, from what you said, I'm getting that a lot of the trees in there, even though we have all this information about them, are going to be removed because of the buildings, because of the building plans, right? And they're not identified because this list was done prior to the building plans.
No, what Mr. Hochbeck was saying is that when he went out and prepared his report, his notes about the individual trees were done without the benefit of seeing the final grading and stormwater plan. But since we have those accurate locations, we have indicated to Mr. Hochbeck, we gave him a detailed breakdown of which trees, by their tag numbers, are coming out, which ones are staying. Once we gave him that information, he provided us with a breakdown of the total compensatory trees required under the ordinance.
Right.
So we are accounting for every tree that we are taking down. And it works out that we have a total replacement, total count of compensatory trees of 157 trees.
John, do we have inventory of trees impacted here by these grade lines, or we're getting into these root zones? Do we have any information on, we're getting all these trees that are underneath these grade lines here that were getting impacted? Do we have any information on that, like how many, or?
You're going to have to go from the plan that Pat has here. What is that, sheet 16?
Right.
15 shows the trees that are going to be impacted, and then you can just refer to the report on the condition rating.
Am I missing some of this plan? I don't have any numbers on these trees to.
No, the plan here doesn't have the numbers.
I need new glasses. You know what I'm saying? I know, I need something.
So then on the other side of the sheet, Jim, there's a chart.
On the left side.
These are the trees I'm talking about.
Here's the trees here. Here's the trees all listed for you.
And then basically,
Yeah, right.
They're all accounted for.
The X is indicated trees.
And what Jim has,
No, where's that other sheet here?
We got some other. We have a stormwater discharge right at these three. The Vice Chair Ward pointed out
We've got grade lines here, right?
over here.
and draw grade lines.
We're ending these grade lines into, I mean, we have to re-reference this map to figure out what we're getting into, what size tree or how close we're gonna be to what. So we gotta go through every single one of these trees to see how close we're gonna be as far as impact goes.
I don't think the grading lines are on this.
this is just showing the existing contours.
Quickly put the grading lines on that one or no?
I could put it.
Yeah, that'd be hard to do. It wouldn't be hard to do. Okay, and then we can.
With the numbers, with the trees' numbers on them?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need an overlay. I mean, this is very confusing. You probably have done your homework. But as a voluntary commission, we have not sat here and matched every number with the trees that are coming out and the ones that are staying or could be affected by some grading changes.
Is there a chance you can take off the compensatory plantings on that plan and just have one plan of our grading with our removals without the compensatory plantings on it?
That makes it easier, sure.
So that we
Yeah.
can read 'em with the numbers on them,
Yeah.
so then we can match them up to what we're looking at?
Okay, you good with that?
Yes. I'll just say that, we did spend a great deal of time with the engineer
I understand.
and looking at the trees, and if we thought we were going to be close to it, we put it into our compensatory chart to compensate for it. So, we were looking for an approval from you. We'd like to, move on to the supervisors. We're up for final approval in a week, so we were looking for some kind of approval this evening.
I think it's going to be difficult for us to offer approval because, it's kind of like having a translator. If you don't know the language, I'm not talking about tree language, but we have to go back and forth between two different plans and hope that we're guessing that the tree that's being removed or is staying is outside either the grading or the stormwater management systems, and that's a very confusing way to present it.
Okay.
Howard, can they get those plans back to us so we can have a while? It's going to take me a while to look at it like that, like a week before the next meeting, so we can actually.
I could get it to you before the end of this week if you'd like.
It's just going to take us some
Yeah.
time to look at it.
Understand.
So we got to match it all up to see what we're looking at.
That's fine. If we got the plans to you with these numbers on them, would it be, I don't know would it be possible for you to issue any comments before the next meeting? We could possibly make our adjustments prior to seeing you. We're just, we're up against a deadline here, and we have a property under agreement. We have to be done by a certain time, and we spend a great deal of time, and we'd just like to be at a point where we can get an approval.
What I could say is, you've seen if I may, Mr. Chairman, you've seen the questions they're asking, so when you when you provide that additional layer to the Shade Tree Commission, if you see the conflict and you show the tree removed and you adjust your chart accordingly, I think that might make it go quicker for them, but I don't know that we can give you, the board, it's not like when you submit for your grading permit or to our engineering firm where we're giving you comments based on that. They're a volunteer board, and the Shade Tree Commission meets once a month, so their next comment round is going to be at the February meeting. But based on the questions we've asked, I think you have the opportunity to fine-tune your plan ahead of time, knowing where there's a possible conflict with the grading lines or any of the storm tanks that could minimize comments at the next meeting and make it facilitate the approval.
I mean, that's what we've done before we came here. We spent a great deal of time doing that. I mean, I understand there's a concern over a few trees around the storm tank, and I know it's a little confusing to look back and forth, but we did spend a great deal of time looking at this and seeing which trees we think we could save, which ones we didn't. And I think we were generous, and even when we were close to the drip line, we said, well, let's just put it into our compensatory chart. We might be able to save it, but let's just give the worst case scenario so we know we're providing the compensatory trees up front. The other thing that's on this plan is that these houses are shown at the 60-foot front yard. The majority of the owners that have been interested have expressed interest in taking advantage of the variance and moving the house footprint forward to preserve more trees. But to be conservative, we wanted to make sure that we showed the grading to the greatest extent that we thought it would be. So at the end of the day, when these houses are built, we believe that the grading will be even less than what's shown on here, especially like up along Newtown Road there behind lots 1 through 4. So we were trying to be generous in our count of compensatory trees, and we did spend a great deal of time and effort prior to this meeting to nail this down.
When do you anticipate finalizing the movement of the residences? Is that you're saying that some of the prospective buyers are interested in moving it forward to?
Right. They have the option, if they'd like to move the house up another 35 feet, which would obviously reduce some of the grading behind the
Well,
lots.
needless to say, that's going to change that whole contour and the grading there. That would address some of what Jim's concerns are there. But when, I guess it's not woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right.
And
we
you
don't
need to
have the
know those.
buyers. They don't have their final, house footprint figured out yet. They're all going to be custom homes. So we showed the grading at the greatest extent that we know it'll happen, that it'll occur in, and that's the threshold. We believe it'll come in from that point. We don't think if they take advantage of that variance, we believe it'll come in. But we wanted to, be honest and say if they built to the 60-foot front yard and they grade it back, the grading's pretty generous behind some of these lots. We wanted to compensate for those trees up front, so we wouldn't run into problems later. So we didn't want to show you a plan that was 35 feet and show you an unrealistic grading plan, and somebody comes back later and starts cutting down trees into these slopes. So that's what we were trying to do.
Just, John, when John made up his removals list, did you take into consideration your impacted trees that would add to your removal list, John?
No, I did not.
So your removal list,
It's based on just agricultural.
but it's not reflected any of these grade lines that we see here.
My report isn't. Their total count
Right.
and the compensatory replacement values are
Okay.
counted in this, yeah.
Gentlemen, if there were any way to speed the process up, and I mean any way, we would be willing to do whatever you would recommend. I'd be more than willing to guarantee this amount of trees planted. I'd be more than willing to add more trees to the count. We are not about taking trees down. We are about saving as many trees, building a buffer for the community, and I would be more than willing to commit to even plant more trees if there were a way to speed things up. We are pretty far behind our original deadline. Hopefully you get a sense of the amount of time, effort, and their time and effort is money for us. The amount of money that we've spent really trying to do this in absolutely the best way we possibly could. And if the issue is, maybe we need to plant 10 more trees or 10 less trees, from my standpoint, that's not an issue. We'll plant 20 more trees or whatever number you decide. It would be a real convenience for us to do that to help us move our project along. So any ideas or any consideration would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Howard, can we give a
Thank you.
conditional approval with a 10% over or 15, whatever this board decides? Right now, you're saying there's, 157 trees that are going to be replaced. Do you feel comfortable with saying that that minimum plus a 10 or a 15% over and above, allocation to account for some of the problems that may be encountered here? Do you see more than that being hindered with slope lines and stormwater management, or would that 15% encounter, that problem? Just looking at the overlays there, in the interest of what they want to do and try not to hold it another month for them.
No, I'm comfortable with that proposal. My concern is how would this be enforced? Who's going to be overseeing it?
Well, I guess if they were to do a 10% overage, that would put them at 16 trees, which would cover us for 30 trees being removed, right? Which I think is based on the sizes. I would request that they actually change the replacement tree item on the chart. So you'd be doing 167, 173 replacement trees and show an additional 16 trees.
With the understanding that what Jim asked for is that you come back with an overlay of combining that so that, we could consider that, or at least look at it for reference points at the next meeting. But we would be given a conditional approval with that 10% at this point to allow them to do what they want to do. And then I don't know the idea of how do you, monitor it. I guess it's monitoring like everyone else, like when we have approvals.
I could have, since they're coming back to the Board of Commissioners, and we'll be going through different things with John Sartor from Gilmore, it can be a condition they have to show on that plan set the additional 16 trees, comment by the Shade Tree Commission, and show them planted.
That would be acceptable, if it's
If that's
acceptable
okay
with
with
the
the
board.
Shade Tree Commission.
Okay, so the Board of Commissioners would be okay with moving forward on a conditional approval?
I can't speak for the board. I mean, that's a way to try to move the plan forward. The Shade Tree Commission would give conditional approval upon an increase of 16 trees to the replacement trees. They'd have to show it on any revised plans they bring, and their plans will be revised as it goes through the approval process with the Board of Commissioners, and that would have to be noted, and John Sartor would have to be able to see that. You could cloud them, you could highlight them, and then we could also, as a courtesy, send a set back to the Shade Tree Commission so they can verify. But you should really clearly show where these 16 new trees go.
That wouldn't be hard. It wouldn't be a problem. And we certainly could get you a set of plans. We can make this change pretty simply and get you a set of plans before the end of the week. I think we have a few weeks for a vote before the board. I don't know if the board has ever, I don't know if there's a way maybe you could communicate to the board prior to our final meeting that you've seen the revised plan and it would be acceptable, save us a trip of coming back one in February, assuming we've done what we've talked about tonight.
I don't know if they can do that. They're going to get the minutes of this meeting, and it'll show what we just spoke about. And I think officially, John, I don't know that this board can give you that, but John Sartor can verify if you call them out that you've shown additional 16 trees per Shade Tree Commission's requirements.
I'd just like to say, speaking for myself, I mean, this is great, this multi-page plan from your arborist, and it's really the kind of thing I'm sure we would like. The missing link is we can't take all that data and compare it to the actual plans. It's hard to anticipate, with these commissions nowadays, what exactly we're looking for.
Right.
But for us to now take and look at all this and then look at the plans and see which of these trees and which heritage trees, et cetera, are going to be impacted, at this point, we can't do that. So I'd be glad to, get together with you guys and take a look when they get the overlay for us and, look at the individual trees and that are affected and all, if you want to help move it along. I'd be volunteer to do that.
I'll just say that when we got John's report, we used that as a guide to identify, specimen trees, heritage trees that are worthy of preservation. And then we worked with our engineer to, significantly change the grading and the stormwater system since last time we were here. We spent a great deal of time doing that. And once we came up with the number of trees we think we could save and the ones we couldn't, we provided that list to John. And then he went in and did the compensatory replacement. So
I'm not doubting that at all,
Right.
really. And, like I said, this is a great job here.
Right.
But it's just a matter of us having a responsibility to put two and two together.
Right.
We're not saying we don't trust you. You did. It looks like you did.
Right.
And it looks like you're doing all the best you can to save it. But it's just a matter of me as a commissioner verifying that, making use of that and saying, yeah, this really adds up. And I do believe it will add up.
Right.
But we try to, match these things. The crucial part is matching this to the plan. And again, it's hard to anticipate that because you're dealing with so many different commissions
Right.
and all. So we understand the difficulty of that. I'd be glad to look at the plans interim to the next meeting if somebody wanted to do that with me or.
Yeah, it's just a matter of us digesting this project. You've put a lot of time and a lot of money, and we understand that you're under a guideline, and this is going to be a great thing for the township and open space and everything that you guys are doing to save trees. This is like 7 times one house for us. So we have to take all that information and digest it just as we would for one house into every single tree that's in the backyard of every single house here. So we just have to extrapolate what you have and digest it so we can see if we can tweak, if we can move something or what kind of tree it is. So we know, I know that you guys already looked at that, okay, and you already planned around that. We just need to look at that ourselves as a committee so we can see exactly what's going on around our grade lines and what trees you could get rid of or what is maybe worth saving, that's all.
Okay.
We just need to, I just need to look at it directly at all those trees that are all in those backyards. That's all. I know you guys are under a timeline, you've done a lot of work to this point already. It just takes us a little bit longer on a project like this because there's so much more involved.
Right.
Okay, so you're going before the Board of Commissioners next, not the Planning Commission.
Yeah, we've received final approval from the Planning Commission. We'd be before the board for their caucus meeting and then for a final vote.
As of now, that's February for your board meeting.
I think we're on the 28th, if I'm not mistaken, January 28th?
I do not believe you are.
No?
But I don't know how that
I'll ask
coordinates
George.
with the Shade Tree Commission. So it's up to the Shade Tree Commission if you wish to have them come back, or we can try to work it out that it's noted somehow that those trees are on there through the engineering review.
But in the interest of working with the developer here, okay, again, what would it be? I'm hearing from them that they're willing to say if it's going to be 10 trees, 15 trees, 20 trees, they're willing to accommodate the comments from this board after we look at it with contour lines and so on, that they're willing to take that and act upon it, not just consider it, but act upon it in the interest of helping them move forward with what they want to do, knowing that the Board of Commissioners meeting, when they're scheduled, is coming prior to our meeting again. I could conceivably see this thing being pushed off until March for them. And is that, I don't know whether the best term is fair or is that equitable to try and help them move along? Is there a way that we could accommodate what our concern would be with whatever they come up with to accommodate their needs by saying that, the 20% factor, 20% of 157 trees would be, 30 trees that they could be liable, responsible for, or whatever
Sure.
to do. And would you feel at ease with that? And that's the only reason I'm making that comment. Not that I'm an arborist or what, but I'm looking at this and saying that, yes, they're going to impact on some of the trees, and they have done some superb work in preparing for that. That's all. So that's my comment.
Steve, do you have any way to verify which meeting they're going to be going to the board for final approval? That would make a lot of difference in how we look at this.
They'll be before the board before your next meeting. Like I say, if you want to go that route, my only suggestion would be, my recommendation to this commission would be, pick the percentage you want, have that percentage actually shown on the plan as being planted, so that when we go out and inspect, it's verified. There's no question about it. If those other trees weren't impacted, it's a bonus. If they were impacted, it's covered. And that can be verified by John Sartor on his various reviews as we go through caucus and final. And then regardless of that, this commission would get that plan as requested, plus the plan that shows, 30 additional trees and where they're going and the revised list.
That would be acceptable to us if it was acceptable to the commission.
Okay, I'm going to ask the commission itself. You're saying that you could have a clearly defined overlay plan within a week?
Could probably have it to you tomorrow if that made it easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you got that copy to engineering, and engineering got it to us, similarly to how we got our plans tonight, but hopefully a little bit more in advance, and we all reviewed those plans and then discussed it via internet or email or whatever, and came to conclusion that, okay, this is the overlay and we see what they're doing now. Would you all be comfortable with that?
I'm not sure whether that would meet the letter of the law from the standpoint of having a meeting. And Steve, you have to mention that. And if you start saying that we're going to have a meeting at another time short of the February meeting, then I know there are regulations with posting and notifications for the general public and whatnot. I don't know whether we can conduct business, just my opinion, I don't know, via email, internet, and communications. It really has to be conducted in a forum such as this, and it has to be properly and duly publicized. The only comment I would have to make here, and after this I will not say anything more, the worst case scenario is that, would it get to a point where we would deny this whole, proposal for shade tree consideration? We know it's going to move forward in some fashion, okay? I guess the thing that I'm getting hung up on, is it going to be 157 trees replaced, or 170 trees, or 140 trees? Okay, knowing that they've done their homework and they're willing to say they're going to give you we're up to 20% right now, condition in there, that would seem to me that whatever machinations that we could go through, whatever they present to us 24 hours from now or 48 hours from now, probably with saying that it's going to be a 20% surplus or consideration, will be accounted for in whatever we come up with in the next 24, 48, or 72 hours. That's the only consideration I have.
The Board of Commissioners meeting is the 11th. The Shade Tree meeting is on the 27th. So conceivably, you're going to be at caucus at the 11th.
Caucus.
And then you'll be back again. So in between caucus and final, I guess you could come to the, unless the Board of Commissioners is on the 11th and again on the 25th, you meet in between those two. So if you were on the fast track and went through caucus on the 11th and final on the 25th, this board does meet before final. So conceivably, you could have the applicant come back, and then we'll get your determination to the board before they go to final.
That date one more time for the Shade Tree Commission in February is the 23rd?
27th.
27th, and the board was when, Steve?
I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Shade Tree is the 27th. Board of Commissioners is the 11th. I'm sorry, the other Board of Commissioners meeting is the 25th, so it falls 2 days after. But I don't know how quick, I don't know if you're going to be able to turn around from caucus to final in that 2-week period. I mean, that can be done, but I don't know.
Can I ask you a question? If we go to the board for caucus and we're up for a final vote, can we get a final vote from the board
Conditional
contingent
on-
upon satisfying the Shade Tree Commission? I'm just
I think we
procedurally.
could do that. We could say, and then,
Our
again, it
concer-
goes back to John Sartor.
Right.
He'll make sure, I think that's, we have other comments for final
Correct.
on that.
mean,
I think that could be done.
I guess typically, Steve, we'll get a final vote from the board, and there'll still be some issues that we're left to resolve with you and Mr. Sator. And
Correct.
could we handle it in that fashion that we would, if we got a vote from the board in favor of the project to finalize it, could we come back to the Shade
Right.
Tree and
And we would add that, that has to be done through John Sartor and his review.
Right.
To make sure there's no conflicts with any other
Right.
conditions of approval. And that way you could still come back to this board on the 27th and you could see the plans in the format that you requested.
Because it always is a condition of any land development approval to receive Shade Tree Commission approval. So if we got approval from the board, we'd still be conditioned upon.
I mean, I can't speak for the Board of Commissioners in saying that, but I understand that methodology and I would report that to them. The other option would be to accept the 30 trees, knowing that that allowed for an impact of 60 trees. You could do that now.
Yeah, I think it would be good to get the ones that in the natural area out, because that's, we don't have to look at them. Just impact. You know, we have to basically take the arborist word there.
But the comp is not going to change. The ones are right. Yeah, the comp not going to change what it is, except for we're going to add 20%. Have a buffer. That's what we're doing.
Okay, sorry for the little chess game here. That, given the schedule that Mr. Norsini provided us, we would like to suggest that to make it a condition with the approval of the Board of Commissioners that the plan be approved conditionally to the fact that you're going to come back to us 2 days later with an overlay plan that we can clearly decide and make decisions on. Right. I think that's, a fair and equitable way to, because we do sense that you've done your homework, but we cannot make our judgments on the way that this has been presented.
Understood.
That's what it clearly comes down to. In any other plan that we have, you've got the species, you've got the size, and you can see where the grading's going. As Jim said, we go through this all the time on a smaller scale. When you put it on a larger scale, it makes it even more complex.
Sure.
Are you good with that?
So it would be conditional approval, conditioned upon revising the sheet 16 to show impacted trees, just the impacted trees. You're not interested in all 411
We're not interested in the
being on that sheet.
woodlands, right?
And then we'll revise the landscape plan to show the 20% additional on top of the 157.
Correct.
And we'll-
Jim, all the heritage trees are tagged with green marking tags, but we want to do a drive-in, they're all tagged off the property for easy visual.
The ones that are slated to be removed, or just all of them?
All of them, all of them.
So you can just say, I put that prior so that when you're doing your inspection, you know,
Do they differentiate between the ones that coming out, or?
now it was done prior to, I don't think you'll be able to see the inspection.
I'd be glad to go out with you and take a look at them, if you would like to do that.
Okay, so are we all in accord?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So
Appreciate
again,
you.
sorry to,
Okay. Thank you for working with us. Appreciate it.
yep,
Again, we really appreciate all the work, and
Thank you.
nice job on this, beautiful.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for your help. If we get a 24-hour heads up before you go out there, we have to...
yeah, notify, sure.
Somebody's coming out.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, excuse me, is 451 Belrose Lane.
Good evening, Rob Lambert here on behalf of the applicant. This proposal we're here tonight because we're moving, I think it was 450 yards of dirt. We're removing 4 trees as part of the project, but really we're here because of the dirt. This is the former carriage house. It was part of St. Martin's Church. They used it as office space. About 2 years ago, this property was subdivided. I think it was actually probably in front of you at that time. There's an existing driveway that's on the right-hand side, actually downhill of the carriage house. Belrose is out on the left. It's uphill. This existing driveway connects to St. Martin's parking lot. That is going to be removed. This is going to be converted to a dwelling, and so we have a proposed driveway off of Belrose. That driveway is going to come in. There'll be a small courtyard, and then go over to the garage. The area where we're removing the dirt, or moving the dirt, is actually in between the house and Belrose. Belrose is several feet higher. I'm going to guess right here, but I want to say it's probably about 8 feet higher than the carriage house. And that slope right now comes down gently, and then there's a sharp grade change right near where the carriage house is. We're really just going to push that grade change back, and that's where we're moving the dirt. As part of the project, we'll do stormwater management. Obviously, with the age of this does not have any. There'll be a rain garden along the south side of the property that we're tucking in almost over where the existing driveway is, and then a little bit uphill of that. That's the project in a nutshell.
You said there's 4 trees being removed?
Yes, there was a 18-inch mulberry which was declining. There's some rot in it. A 16-inch ash right here. There's a holly tree that's right near the garage that's getting moved to because of grade changes, and then a 6 to 8-inch dogwood right in front of where the garage is.
Is the dogwood on the map here?
Yes, it's right in the driveway area itself.
Okay.
There's some street trees that we're preserving. There's an oak tree, and I believe it's a maple that we want to preserve, and those are important trees to the property. There's a large elm behind. Again, we're really limiting all of our disturbance behind. We're just removing the asphalt and building a small patio over where there's existing asphalt. So we're really trying to, those 3 trees are the most important trees on the property. There are 2 spruce along the southern property line that we will also be preserving. And then a spruce right behind where the garage is. They're working on the foundation design to limit any damage to that tree.
Okay, so you're putting Magnolia virginiana back in as...
Those will be in the rain garden.
In the rain garden area, and Amelanchier.
We don't have a full planting plan. The owners do plan to plant, but they have not worked out what landscape they're gonna put in. The only reason we're here is not for removals. The reason we're here tonight is for moving dirt. So we're under your limit for removal of trees, but you also have a limit for coming in front of you as part of a grading permit. I want to say it's 300 yards of dirt.
Yeah, I think it's 350, but The other issue is they are putting 11 trees back in the rain garden area. Yeah,
As part of our stormwater management.
The 6 magnolia and the 5 amelanchier. And they're 3.5-inch caliber, which is a good hardy size, so. Okay, we're in accord?
Great. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is 18 Orchard Lane.
My name's Dave Schreiner. I'm here for the applicant, Michael Pansini. We are also here for earth moving, over 300 cubic yards. There's only one tree that's to be affected by the construction. All the proposed construction is going to be in turf areas, and it's approximately a 6-inch caliber oak. Which is right there. There's a picture of it. Not real clear. You can see. That's in the turf area. It's a newly planted tree. It's been there about 2 years. We're not required to, but we're looking to move that. It's a nice tree, a bur oak.
Could you just describe the actual building project itself?
Yeah, I can show you that.
Yeah, I think it would help.
You can see where the proposed pool house is where that tree was. Right there.
Is this sheet 3 of 5?
Yes.
Thanks.
That's it.
Are you removing all that dirt, or are you re-allotting it to other areas of this property?
We'll be removing the least amount as possible. We didn't do the cut fill analysis is always subject to change, but we will be removing as little of that earth as we can.
Okay, so do you know generally where you're going to put the part you're going to relocate?
Yeah, in the grading plan, that's not really part of the shade tree commission review, is it? I mean, it's all in the turf area where the construction is going on. I understand your question, but is that something for review
If
here?
it impacted trees.
Yeah, I think the question, are you stockpiling any soil on site, or are you removing it?
Well, during construction, some will be stockpiled.
Okay, is that identified on the plan?
Yeah. Sheet 2.
Okay, I see this hatched area here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing there. There is a 10-inch oak to the northwest of your storm water retention system that you're proposing to put in.
Yeah, that won't be affected.
And your scale is 20 feet per inch. And you're at about 15 feet. For the actual installation, and there's going to be some overdig, I imagine, in order for that to happen.
That's the approximate location of that basin. If there's any overdig required, it'll be done in the turf area. It's easier to do construction that way.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could slide that retention system slightly to the south, get further away from that 10-inch oak.
Yeah, we will not impact those roots there for that tree when that's put in. It may slide southwest. It may slide west. It will not affect that tree.
Yeah, if they take. I just prefer a straight roof this way. You know, are you willing to move that basin a little bit to the south?
Part of putting that basin in, you have piping, and your fall has to be such that it meets up.
Right.
Now, those considerations will be taken, at that time. But my understanding is, and I've spent quite a bit of time on this property. I did a previous project on it. I know the property very well. That tree will not be impacted. there are some other trees there that aren't shown that are in a planted area. These were new plantings. After this initial tree survey was done, similar to the one tree that is going to be affected here, a new planting, and they're not going to be impacted.
You're about 15 feet where you're proposing the retention. And usually when you build these systems, you're going to be overdigging a little bit. So you're going to be further into.
I do understand your concern. See this, there's an existing basin right there. I put that in 4 years ago. The previous construction project. I know exactly what the look is. How much room I have here. This line may actually be back a little bit. I can't confirm that line, but I do know that when I staked all this out, I have quite a bit of room in here. So much to place that.
So you could slightly this, but
Yeah. That's what we're asking. So, like I said, it may move this way. It could move this way, depending on that pipe plan I thought it was this. But that's not a set stone location.
Right. But yes, it's slide this way. Where's
My responsibility is that tree, where the other trees are not done here.
Right.
I can't say I'm definitely going to be right to here because I have to move it back a little bit depending on where that fold is. Like the construction will determine the exact location of this along the national state. Whatever trees are right here will not be impacted. The owner doesn't have to move it. So that's okay.
So you're saying there's other trees in there?
Yes. Smaller trees. After this, after that big tree survey is done.
Okay. So he wants that area to got it all landscape. Landscapes.
Yeah, there's like a going Edward here, and there's some nice man. I wish I had another picture of that. I could go work that.
Okay, no, we approve your plan and encourage you to transplant that 6-inch oak. And then also, if at all possible, you move that stormwater retention system away from the 10-inch
To not
oak.
affect any trees that might be there.
Right.
Root systems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, John.
The 11 Earls Lane, my understanding, has been postponed by the applicant. Old business, new business. Both of them, I guess, can be addressed in one issue, is that the revised shade tree ordinance was initially approved by the Board of Commissioners in their caucus meeting. But in the regular meeting, it was tabled. So we are still operating under the old revision, or the old old ordinance. And we will find out the status of the revision shortly. We have several hazardous tree reports. There's 822 Glenbrook Avenue. It's a Bryn Mawr train station. We have photographs of that, I believe, in your packets. And due to an extensive excavation in close proximity to the base of the tree, causing irreversible damage to the root system and the structural integrity with the possibility of falling on the train tracks.
I don't, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the pictures were included in your packet. The tree at 822 Glenbrook, SEPTA is installing a new retaining wall, which is actually part of the Glenbrook Municipal Parking Lot. They have quite an overdig on that, and the project manager did contact me. I did look at the tree. I think it was going to be a hazard, not just for installing that wall, but for actually hanging out over the tracks. And to help keep that project online, I did give them permission to remove that tree. I think that was going to be a real issue. They're digging back several feet into our parking lot, and it literally left that tree kind of hanging, if you will, or would be when that excavation got to that point.
Okay. Yeah, 40 Luella Court. An evergreen tree was removed. There was a 64-inch beech tree, and it was recommended by the arborist to prune that tree, fertilize with a root stimulant, mulch area of disturbance near the curbing, and inspect its cables. And that tree will remain, again, since it is a 64-inch and in fair condition. 894 Glenbrook, 58-inch tree. It was decayed and hazardous and was removed. 220 Ravenscliff Road, 40-inch ash was removed due to large crack and severe decay at the base. 116, 118 Tryon Lane was removed again due to severe crown dieback. That was a 64-inch ash. And 133 Ashwood Road, a 56-inch oak was removed due to severe trunk decay and 32% loss of strength. That particular one will be replaced with 3 shade trees within 100-foot yard radius of the subject tree, and that was approved by the Township arborist. Okay.
Question on 894 Glenbrook. That was that, did we approve that one? That removal?
Doug called. That tree was coming down, and Doug called Sue, so I went out to look at it. There's a pretty good picture of the wood here that you can see. The guy didn't get it. He didn't get a permit, but it was a big beech. It was pretty decayed.
But is there going to be a replacement for that?
I don't know how did Sue leave it with him.
I'm not sure.
I mean, it was taken down without permission, a heritage tree, right?
It was dead.
It was dead?
So here's a...
Someone would have still there when I was
do we always make that distinction, that if the tree is, I mean, don't we ask for a replacement anyway?
Yeah, I would recommend a replacement if they're certainly willing to. I don't think there's anything in the ordinance that demands such, but, right.
It's similar to the one, Mr. Chairman, at 220 Ravenscliff, where it says okayed by me. That was done before we had the arborist on, so we had the normal report from the residence arborist saying that this tree was a hazard. And in between that time, some large limbs were falling off, and the resident called, and she was quite concerned in between having Horgan's report and seeing the limbs on the ground. That's why we let them go. But we will reach out to the folks who had the dying or diseased heritage trees and see if they would wish to voluntarily plant. And perhaps that would be a good spot for, I'm not sure where they are in relation to the right-of-way, for the next big tree program, where we plant trees throughout the township.
But Steve, it's a voluntary replacement when the tree is decayed and it has to be taken out.
I concur with the chairman. I believe that's the way we've been handling
Yeah,
it.
that's the way it is. Right.
But with Chanticleer and the Radnor Conservancy and the big tree program, we have opportunities to maybe help. That's what the last project was based on, locations where the township had removed a tree in the right-of-way, and these 31 trees went back in those locations. So even if they don't wish to volunteer, maybe they would take a new tree from that program.
Okay, any other business, public comment? Very good. Thank you.